Republican side, which was the incumbent state representative Lee Chatfield and his challenger Kathy Torty of Sault Ste. Marie. On the Democratic side, Phil Belfie is running unopposed on the Democratic ticket in the primary. We did invite him to be a part of the event tonight, but I'm guessing since he's unopposed in the primary, he probably felt like it didn't need to drive down from Sault Ste. Marie for that. So, and we respect that. So the contested race, we have both candidates here, and that's exciting to have, and we appreciate both of them being here. We'll do the same exact format, 2 minutes for opening comments and 2 minutes to close, and then 90 seconds for each question. We tried to tailor these questions more for state-related issues, and I guess if everybody's settled and ready to go. I should, one other little thing. I forgot to mention in the beginning, the Petoskey News Review is videotaping tonight's forum, and so we'll be accessible online, and so tell friends who may have missed it tonight or maybe wanting to hear more from the candidates that they can go online with the Petoskey News Review, and I don't know how long it takes to get that all processed and up online, but within the next couple days I'm sure it will be there, and so we appreciate that. So your timekeeper is there, the lovely Sherry is right in front of you, so you can look to her. And all set? Yeah. All right. We'll let Kathy go first. You're closest to me. That helps me keep consistent formatting here.
Yeah, we'll remember.
All right. So we'll let Kathy Torty have 2 minutes to introduce herself.
Hi. Good evening. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of the community partners for putting this event together, and then thank you, yes, for giving up your lovely Northern Michigan evening. So my name is Kathy Torty. I'm from Sault Ste. Marie, and I'm running for state representative for District 107. And I sincerely apologize if I haven't made it to your door yet. I have been going around the district knocking on all doors, but I do have to tell you that when you get invited in for a warm snickerdoodle and a cup of tea, you sort of have to go. So that can delay the door knocking. So I am still getting around. We've got 13 days left, 14 days if you count today, but so I will get to your house. I am from Sault Ste. Marie, born and raised up in Chippewa County, where I own a business with my husband, Steve, over there, of 20 years. We own a health food store. I have a master's degree in holistic nutrition, and so on the side what I do is I do nutritional counseling for people, anywhere from ADD, ADHD, autism, Asperger's, hormonal issues, sometimes even cancer. And I also am an elected city commissioner for the city of Sault Ste. Marie. So I got elected to that position 3 years ago. And before that, I was on the DDA. If you don't know what a DDA is, it stands for Downtown Development Association. So I've been involved in local government for the last 7 years. And I really think that it's important before you step up to state level government that you do represent at the local level so that you understand what the budget looks like, what going through the budget line item by line item can be, where things get funded from, how to answer your phone, how to call your constituents back. I think that's a very important issue. If you can't solve all of their problems, you need to let them know why, and then let them know that you tried really, really hard, but not all problems can be solved. And so I'm running for State House, so thank you for coming.
Lee, 2 minutes.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. And the phrase goes, the world is changed by those who show up, so I appreciate you being here tonight on a lovely Northern Michigan evening. And I'd also like to thank the News Review, the Chamber, and all our sponsors for being here tonight. I think it's good. I think it's profitable to have a healthy primary debate. The conversation that we just saw before this debate here, I think it's good because all of us in our communities are genuinely concerned with how to preserve our freedoms. We're genuinely concerned about our children and our grandchildren. We're generally concerned about passing down the traditions that were passed down to us, and I think it's important to see differences of opinion and to come and to find out what people believe. For me, as an 8th generation Northern Michigan resident, I sat here 2 years ago and told you what I would do if I was in office, and I've lived up to that. And it's sitting here with Kathy, knocking doors. I think we probably both had about 20 minutes to change, run over here, put the suit on. It's been a privilege. It's been an opportunity that I've truly been thankful for each and every day the past 2 years to represent you. And what makes America unique, and truly what makes us great, is that in a civil way we can be here discussing these positions in front of you. And for me, what I'm committed to doing is truly what our founders said that they were committed to doing in the preamble of our Constitution. That was to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. My biggest goal is to take the freedoms that I have, the heritage that's been passed down to me, and to pass them on to my children and hopefully grandchildren. So thank you for being here, and that's a little bit of who I am.
All right, Lee, we'll let you go first with the questions. This time we're down to 90 seconds, and as you observed, it goes by pretty quickly. So, Craig, you got the first one. So again, 90 seconds for.
Yeah, and I'll preface this by saying I'm sure you hear a lot of different and maybe sometimes wild things when you're at those doors. So if you could keep this to a state-related issue or something that you have control over, we'd appreciate that. As you are campaigning, what is the top issue or problem that voters are asking you about, and what legislative solutions do you propose?
Yes, you will hear many different issues. You know, obviously with representing the 107th House District, you have the Lower Peninsula and you have the Upper Peninsula. Without a doubt, especially over the past couple of weeks, what I hear about most at doors, especially in the Upper Peninsula, is the energy crisis that they're facing right now. The rates that are going to increase potentially under a recent decision by MISO. And the UP needs energy independence. That's what they're crying for, that's what they want, and they want to be treated fairly. But I'll say this, with an umbrella covering the Lower Peninsula and Upper Peninsula, without a doubt what I hear the most at the doors when I'm knocking is really a question, and people always say this to me: what are we going to do about this presidential election? People are concerned about it, and they're concerned that they may or may not have a choice that they like. But people understand this, that our country is at a turning point. We can decide that we can continue the way we've been going, or we can just rid ourselves of tradition and embrace change and hope and all these things that really mean nothing without a positive solution. So for me, it covers a whole range of things. The UP, it's energy, and in the Lower Peninsula, it's truly potentially even an overreach of government into our lives. And it's difficult to pick one topic, but overreach of government, I would say.
90 seconds.
Thank you. Definitely, Lee's right. We cover a large area, and the bridge connects those two. So in the UP, it is the UP power crisis. And that temporary agreement with FERC and MISO expires in the year 2020. And if we don't get a representative that understands that issue, who's been around with that issue since the beginning, and who actually pays those rates, I don't think that it's going to be a loud enough voice down in Lansing, personally. Below the bridge, people are really concerned about their children exporting out of here. And so the average ages of our communities is going up and up and up. And the reason that they are going up and up and up is because kids are not sticking around to live in northern Michigan. So one of the things that I'm concerned with, and I think that we should potentially take a look at, is getting more trade skills back into our schools. I think that would be a great way to give kids an alternative life other than college. They can live in northern Michigan, they can work as a welder. You guys have a great new school in Onaway. It's a construction school, $7,000 to get through that school. And I met the owner of that school. He actually has a lot of scholarships available. There's also a new pilot training program at Petoskey Airport. I would love to see, it's a pilot program. And because this is the first year for it, but I would love to see that expanded on so that you could do airline mechanics, airline EMS, which is a different form of EMS. So those are the issues that I'm seeing right now in the district. UP power crisis up in the Upper Peninsula. 2020 is going to be here before we know it, and then downstate we need to look at more keeping our kids around. Thank you.
All right, Kathy, you get to go first this time, and Matthew, you get the question.
All right. Please give an example of an issue on which you are or have been willing to break with the orthodoxy of your party in order to support the interests of your constituents.
Well, first of all, I am a city commissioner, and a city commissioner is a nonpartisan position. So I haven't had to break from my party for that at all. I have always been a Republican. My father worked for the Army Corps of Engineers at Sulaks, and so I remember as a small child, he got a raise when we had a Republican president. And that really resonated huge for me because we were not very wealthy. There was one jar of spaghetti sauce for 6 people in the house, and he worked labor all day long, so he got about half the jar. And so I have always been a Republican my entire life, but as far as my job with City Commission, it's nonpartisan, so I'm able to solve any constituent issue, and usually partisan doesn't even come into play.
Yeah, I could go several different directions with this. Truly, I've actually voted, if you count last year and this year, against my party over 60 times, so I could try to think of which issue I'd like to pick. I think really government getting involved with businesses and providing tax credits to one over the other. To me, that's been a big issue to me. Government should not pick winners and losers. Recently, in the state legislature, we had a company that was wanting to come to Michigan. They were, a data center, and we provided tax credits for an entire industry, one over another. And for me, the reason I voted against that is because we have to trust the entrepreneurial spirit and free enterprise that built this country. Government should not be involved in that. But secondly, I'd like to talk about, this is something that's been around in Michigan for many years, and it's regarding the exemption that the legislature has and the governor has from the Freedom of Information Act. I think we need to be subject to that. I think the people need to have access to our records. So I went against really a lot of my own party and the other parties, a bipartisan solution, to say we serve the people, you need to have access to our records. So I would say sweeping tax credits to one business over another, it's gotten us into budget deficits, and also making sure that there is transparency and accountability with our government to the people.
And Lee, you continue to be up and Craig?
Yeah, a couple of these questions are you will have heard before, but assuming you win, how will you know that you have been successful after your 2-year term? How do you find success? How do you define success in this job?
Well, for me, obviously being the elected representative, I will know August 2nd and then hopefully potentially in November whether or not the district thought I was successful. But I think fundamentally, campaigns are filled with promises. Campaigns are filled with a lot of rhetoric, a lot of talk. And to me, a success would be going to Lansing and returning the same person. Going to Lansing and sticking by what you told people you would do. Being a success will be indicated now by whether or not I'm reelected, but fundamentally it's keeping your word, serving with honesty and integrity, working hard, and remaining accessible. I think if you can do those things and say the same person you were when your district sent you, then that's a success.
Thank you. Obviously, yes, if you get elected, then that is a success right there. But I also think it's really important for you to accomplish some things, for you to stay in contact with your district, for you to always be letting people know if you're going to vote with them or if, unfortunately, at some point you might have to vote against them for some reason. But always the honesty and accomplishing things. I haven't seen a whole lot get accomplished, and that's actually why I am primary challenging. And so that right there says to you, if you're getting a primary challenger, so maybe you haven't accomplished anything in the last couple of years. The city of Sault Ste. Marie has been asking for a couple of things to get done. We've needed help with our carbide dock up there, with tax tribunal, fire protection services, and not a lot has changed in the last couple of years. So I would say if you're successful, if you are completing projects and you are getting things done and you get reelected.
We did that, right?
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. Okay, so obviously Kathy goes first this time. Matthew?
If you were elected, what committees would you hope to serve on and why?
Well, the number one committee that I would love to be on would include EMS. I was a paramedic in my past life. I'm a huge EMS buff. I am also on the outreach emergency services for our district up in the Upper Peninsula. I understand rural EMS, and it is a huge issue, especially here in northern Michigan. I also was pre-med at one point, and so I would love to sit on a committee that works with health and hospitals. So those would probably be my two favorite committees. Thank you.
I'd like to continue serving on tax policy. For me, I think it's important that as a state of Michigan, we make ourselves attractive to businesses outside of our state. I think it's important that we not only just attract businesses, but something I hear about from people all the time is they feel that government constantly, a never-ending more and more taking money out of your pocket. I think it's important for us to have a tax structure in this state that rewards work, it rewards labor, and as businesses look at our state from across the country, they say, hey, you know what? Michigan is a state that treats industries fairly. They don't pick winners and losers. That's a state that I want to do business in. If we can do that, if we can have that and attract those businesses in, some of the problems we have in northern Michigan where our kids and our grandkids can't move back and have jobs, those problems will be solved. So we need to make ourselves attractive. I enjoy serving on tax policy, and I'd like to serve on it again.
All right, Lee, you're up first, and Craig, you have a question.
Did legislative solutions enacted last year fix the problem with Michigan's chronically underfunded road maintenance budget, or is there more work to be done?
Not at all. Not at all. The problem was not solved. Fundamentally, here's the problem in Michigan. We pay 3 taxes at the pump. All right, we pay 3 taxes at the pump, and one of those, the sales tax, does not go to roads. As long as we in the state of Michigan, as long as we pay our per gallon tax for the state of Michigan, our federal tax, and the sales tax, as long as we pay those 3, we're going to be one of the highest taxed states in the country at the pump, and our roads will be underfunded. Now I understand we found money in the general fund to send to it, but we still have a road funding problem. What I would like to see done, and I co-sponsored this legislation last year, and I'd love to do it again next year, and maybe we can get it through, is this. You take away the 6% sales tax at the pump, you replace it with a wholesale tax. What that will do is ensure that all the money spent at the pump goes to roads. As long as we in the state of Michigan are paying 3 taxes, and one of that does not go to the roads, we have a road funding problem. So we need to take away sales tax at the pump, replace it with a wholesale tax.
You need the question repeated, Kathy.
No, I don't. No, thank you. I don't feel like it solved the issue either. It maybe isn't going to help with MDOT roads, but we're the only state in the country that has a negative impact on revenue sharing. So there's 2 types of revenue sharing, constitutional, statutory. And road funding comes from one of those budgets of revenue sharing. If we don't get more revenue sharing back into our counties, our townships, and our municipalities, they are not going to be able to fix their roads. MDOT might be fixing their roads, but you're not going to get your county or your township or your municipal roads fixed. And they are very expensive. People think when you get $1 million to fix a road, it doesn't go very far, especially when you have to miter it down, or if you're doing catch basins or CSO. And there are a lot of communities in our district that, since I've been knocking doors, they haven't even started their CSO projects, and these are federally mandated, and they're so expensive to complete. And so what that means is you're separating sewer from water, and it's an undertaking. The city of Sault Ste. Marie has been doing that over the last 20 years, and we're on our last phase of it. But as I'm walking through these old Petoskey streets, I see that there are a lot of areas where we haven't even started it, and it's really expensive. So we need to get revenue sharing up. That money needs to be coming back to the municipalities so that they can fix their roads.
All right, Kathy, you're first again, 90-second response, and Matthew, you're up.
What reforms, if any, would you make to the state's tax increment financing process, which is often used to fund the development of downtown business districts throughout the state?
I wouldn't make any reforms to it. I think that in our district, the TIF has worked fine. I actually sat on the DDA for 4 years, and I am aware of the 3 different types of TIFs that we have. You know, the city of Sault Ste. Marie, and I know that the city of Petoskey works with their TIFs fine. I can't imagine if you're collecting that money and then you have to lobby to the state back to give it back to you. Can you imagine how time consuming that would be? The state isn't super responsive on giving money back to us at any point. And so if you already have to ask them back for the money that you've already submitted to them, it just would be crazy. So no, I wouldn't reform TIF.
I think one of the fundamental things I'd like to see reformed with tax increment financing is this. We need more transparency. Whenever you are using taxpayer dollars, I don't think you can have enough transparency. When we have communities across the state, and maybe ours, I don't know, I don't think so because it seems to do well, but when we have communities around the state that are spending tax increment financing money on police and fire, that's not what it was intended to do. Whenever you dip in to the public funds, public money, you need transparency. You, the taxpayer, need to know what this money is being spent on. Secondly, I think a fundamental thing that could be reformed with it, not destroyed, but reformed in it, is this community right now. We're voting on millage. You know, we're going to have a library millage, and we have community college millage. You know, here's a question. If the voters of Emmett County pass a county-wide veteran millage, should a downtown authority be able to take some of that money? And I think fundamentally, no. I think if the voters decide this money should go to the library, the money should stay at the library. And what we have are downtown authorities that get to take some of that money. So I think increased transparency and making sure that what the voters vote on, that's where the money goes.
Next question, Craig?
Yeah, 2 years ago when we were here, right around the same time, we were talking about bailing out the city of Detroit. Today, we're talking about Detroit Public Schools in a similar situation. What is the state's role in helping Detroit?
Well, I'll speak directly to Detroit Public Schools. Fundamentally, we have a constitutional responsibility in the state to provide a free education. In my opinion, that's already been provided. Last year, we passed a $13.9 billion appropriation to our schools. Now, after that, if you have a school district that has failed and is out of money, as your representative, I cannot justify sending one more dime from Northern Michigan to Detroit Public Schools. There was a 6-bill package that went through the legislature. 2 of those bills, Senate Bill 822 and House Bill 5383, took money and gave it to the schools. Number 1, we paid off their debt, and number 2, we gave them a loan. I cannot do that. Detroit Public Schools already gets twice as much funding per student that we do in Northern Michigan. It's time we say enough is enough. We've had to make cuts in our schools. We've prioritized, you have to as well. Now, the other 4 bills were reform packages because it is our responsibility in the legislature to ensure that there's a free, quality education in our state. So, as far as municipalities, I'd say the only responsibility we have, constitutionally, with certain liabilities that they have, but it's not going in and simply bailing out Detroit Public Schools. It's not going in and rescuing cities and fixing their infrastructure. We have got to make sure that Northern Michigan's hard-earned dollars stay here in Northern Michigan.
Yeah, I would agree with Lee on this one. I do think that the state's responsibility is first and foremost to make sure that there is public education, free public education. You're also supposed to make sure that everything that the immediate threat is taken care of. So once the immediate threat is taken care of, I don't think that it's the responsibility of the state or the taxpayers to go in and bail them out. And as we see right now, the funding, it's such unequal funding. I remember Senator Walker, one of his last things that he did in lame duck was to get just a little bit more, squeaked out a little bit more for Northern Michigan kids, Northern Michigan schools. We're just at as much high risk up here in Northern Michigan as they are down in Detroit. So I don't understand the unequal funding. And so I don't think that it's our responsibility to bail them out. I don't think that we should be fixing their bills. And I don't think that we should be, well, the Oversight Committee is a really good idea, but I don't think that we should be giving them all this money. Northern Michigan schools need it just as badly. Thank you.
Keep going, is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay. And Kathy's again, so, and Craig's got the question. Okay.
Yeah, we have a lot of rural school districts in this 107th State House district. Do you support any type of mandated consolidation or consolidation requirement of some of these small schools in your district?
Consolidation of the small school districts, I don't think that they would be for that. They like to remain themselves separate. We've got Brimley, we've got Rudyard, we've got Pickford. They all seem to be working fine under the ISD. The ISD's job is to make sure that all of the schools are functioning properly, that there's busing getting to all of them, that schools all have a quality education. We also have, in our district, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 islands. So I can't imagine if Drummond Island School District had to be combined with Gatesville School District. That just wouldn't work logistically. Sugar Island schools do come to the city of Sault Ste. Marie, but merging some of them might make more of a budgeting nightmare. I think that kids' school days are already really, really long. There's not a lot of time for homework. I know for a fact, my son, by the time he goes to school, he comes home, he eats dinner, he goes to hockey, he comes home, he might have 45 minutes to take a look at his homework. And so if he was spending 90 minutes on a bus, that would really, really impact that, well, probably the hockey schedule more than anything, which is his favorite thing to do. So I would leave that up to the ISD. I think that the ISDs are what's watching and monitoring the smaller school districts.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick. The answer is no. I think rural northern Michigan knows best how to educate our kids. We know better than Lansing. I think trust our ISDs, trust our local school districts, trust our locally elected school boards. And one of the challenges, as was just mentioned, with a rural district like ours, transportation, the amount of time these kids spend on busing is already a lot. There's some kids in our area that spend up to 4 hours a day on a bus. And so to simply make decisions from Lansing with not understanding those challenges, I think would be an oversight. So no, I think we need to trust our local school districts.
All right, one final question before we go into closing comments. And Lee, you get the lead off on this, 90 seconds. Matthew, you're asking?
This one is also a question that we heard earlier. The 63-year-old Line 5 pipeline has been a hot topic of conversation. Please share how you would address this issue from the House of Representatives.
Yeah, I'll speak actually to a bill that I introduced. I believe off the top of my head, House Bill 5198. First and foremost, as was mentioned, we have to look in northern Michigan at our natural resources. We have to look at and ask ourselves, what makes us pure Michigan? Well, part of that's our Great Lakes, that's our inland waterways. That's what draws people up here, so it needs to be protected. I really do. Many people, as they approach this issue, they take an all or nothing approach. Well, first and foremost, I think we need more transparency. What I've introduced, and it really codifies a federal law that was passed in the 90s. In the 90s, the federal government required that these pipeline operators submit on an annual basis a report of their maintenance, a report of their inspection, and a report of what their plan is if there's ever a spill. The state does not have that report. The pipeline operators are not required to send that to us in Michigan. So what my bill does, it simply takes what the feds require and says you have to give this to the state each and every year. Now, would our state economy be impacted if there were ever a spill? Absolutely. But you know whose economy would be impacted the most? Northern Michigan. I mean, that could cripple us for several years. As your representative, I need to know what the maintenance and inspection is of that pipeline. And actually, I'm having a work group in Lansing next week about that to continue moving that bill forward. So that's exactly what I have done.
First of all, when Enbridge put the pipeline in, they were the ones that said that it only had a maximum lifetime of 50 years. So we're already 14 years past what they say their maximum lifetime is. The city of Sault Ste. Marie came out pretty hard on a resolution. I did sign it. We said to shut down Line 5. Am I all about stopping small business? Absolutely not. I just think that we need to have more transparency. Enbridge doesn't have the best track record. If you look at the Kalamazoo issue, and then you also look at Manistee with those 2 oil spills there, the Coast Guard has already come out publicly and said that if there was an oil spill, especially during the middle of winter, there would be nothing that we could do. It would just continue to destroy our Great Lakes. We all live here because of the water. The Great Lakes are amazing. And it would be completely irresponsible also of us if we have Lake Superior State University, who has a Center for Freshwater Research and Education, and they put 95% of the Great Lake salmon back into the Great Lakes, and we're not protecting the water in which we're putting these salmon back into. So in my mind, I think that Enbridge we need to have a third-party study done. I think that Enbridge needs to be more responsible with some checks and balances, more transparency, and that's it, I guess. Thank you.
Okay, we'll wrap it up. Sherry, we're going to 2 minutes this time. And Kathy, you get to go first, and you get 2 minutes to wrap it up.
Okay, so I am Kathy Torty. I'm running for state representative, and I can tell you that I do get things done. In fact, over the last 3 months since I've even been campaigning. If it's been 3 months, it seems like it's been a lifetime. But the last 3 months, I've already accomplished 3 major tasks that are not even in my district. So Curtis, I helped them get their self-funded mobile library computerized, and I did that through your library district down here. So she helped them with resources up in the Upper Peninsula, and so now their self-funded library is now going online, and so we will be able to reach mobile library out into the rural areas, which is great for me, great for them, not for me. The number 2 thing that I'm already working on too is that we need AT&T to come up into the Upper Peninsula, and we need broadband and Wi-Fi into the rural areas, because eventually at some point landlines are going to go away. I know that it's not a shut-off, it's a transformation. I was on the phone with AT&T the other day for an hour, and we need to get Wi-Fi and broadband up into the rural areas. So I'm helping the Good Heart General Store on their Wi-Fi issue right now. They're going to be hopefully having broadband brought to them. The number 3 thing that I've already started working on is just going to all the senior luncheons into the district. I'm working on getting hoop houses out to these senior areas. Most of our seniors used to be farmers, and these are great skills that we can put to work for them. If you put hoop houses next to these senior centers, not only does the quality of food go up, food costs go down, it helps with their mental status and psyche, and so I can show you right there that just these are not issues in my district, but I'm working to get them done, because that's what your state representative should be doing for you. And so I would love your support on August 2nd, so please make sure that you go out and vote. Tell everybody to go out and vote. Of course, I would like for you to vote for me, but thank you very much. Have a great night.
And Lee, you also have 2 minutes.
Thank you. You know, first and foremost, I want to thank you for the privilege that you gave me 2 years ago to represent this district. I'm a lover of history, former teacher of history, and to know that I have the opportunity to contribute and to play a part in our political process, to know that I have the opportunity to play a part in preserving the heritage that's been passed down to me, and preserving the freedoms that were passed down to me by my father, my grandfather, our forefathers. It's a privilege I thank the Lord for each and every day. 2 years ago, I sat here at this table, and I told you if you elect Lee Chatfield, you're going to get 3 things. We might not agree on every issue. In fact, every vote you take, the over 700 votes I've taken, there's some constituents who agree, and there's some who disagree on every single vote. But the 3 things I promised you'd get with Lee Chatfield. Number 1, I promised you'd get honesty. I've stood by my votes. I've made every attempt to explain my votes, and I've done what I said I would do. Number 2, I've told you you'd have accessibility. In the past 2 years, I've had over 75 public local office hours in our district. The cell phone I gave 2 years ago is the same cell phone that's in my pocket. It's the same cell phone that's been buzzing this entire debate. You will have accessibility. And number 3, I promised you'd have hard work. To know that your taxpayer dollars are going to preserve your freedoms, wow, that means a lot. And you know what? I'm going to work tremendously hard to continue representing our shared values in Northern Michigan. 2 years ago, I told you those were the 3 things you're going to get. Those are the 3 things that you have got with Lee Chatfield, and if you elect me for another term, those are the 3 things you will continue to get. Thank you for coming out here tonight, and remember to vote on August 2nd. Thank you.
Once again, join me in thanking both candidates for, again, a nice debate. If you'll allow me just some quick thank yous. Again, reminder, the Petoskey News Review did videotape. This will be online at the News Review's website. Thanks, Craig and Matthew. Nice job as facilitators tonight. Appreciate your questions and thoughtful questions. Thanks, Sherry, for being our timekeeper. Thanks, Dennis, for the cookies and the sodas. We will be back here again on October 12th to debate this for the general election. So the winners will be here on October 12th, and so we're going to do this again. And on your way out, as you're going to the parking lot, take a right turn and enjoy the summer evening in the sculpture garden that's right behind me here in the college. It's a beautiful place, and what a nice opportunity to just take a stroll on a beautiful summer evening among the great art. So thank you all for coming, and thanks everybody for your help and your volunteering.